If you go to Google, type in the word autism, and do an image search, this is the page that you will come up with. There are a lot of bright colors, a lot of autism awareness signs, cute phrases like always unique, totally interesting, sometimes mysterious. There are charts with different behaviors associated with the disorder or symptoms of the disorder. There are really a lot of different ways of compartmentalizing what autism looks like, essentializing what autism is. Something that there's a lack of, however, is people. It seems to have been forgotten that autism is essentially about people. Old people, young people, people of all different colors, religions. And yet somehow, when you see images of autism, that reality has been forgotten. Many take issue with the idea of puzzle pieces representing autism. It makes sense as a symbol. After all, you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. There is no innate autism. It's a diverse group of people who all look very different from one another. I think the puzzle piece only simplifies autism, makes it more palatable for the masses. Science hasn't even found an explanation for it yet, and people tend to fear things that they can't understand. Autism isn't any different. In order to understand autism, it really helps to know someone with it. These are my brothers, John and David. They're 18 years old and twins. You'll find they're a lot like normal teenagers, except John is close to nonverbal, and while David talks a lot, most of the time what he says doesn't make a lot of sense. What I really want to show is the fact that despite their autism, John and David are pretty much just like everyone else. They have their likes and their dislikes. They fight with each other, with me. They can't get up in the mornings or like to stay up really late at night. They like cereal. There's nothing different about them. Though that isn't entirely true. John still needs help doing the basics to take care of himself, and David also needs my dad to set up his toothbrush every once in a while or help him out with acne medication. We also keep some foods in a lockbox in our refrigerator, like cheese, apples, cream cheese, things that my brothers can't control themselves with. It seems normal to me, but obviously it isn't. My brothers were diagnosed with autism in 1998 at the age of 3 years old, but my mom swears that they've been strange since they were in the delivery room. We never bought into the whole idea that vaccines had caused my brother's autism, that they had been developing perfectly normally up until then, because the reality is that they never were. They were cute kids. They were always happy, still are. They developed just like everybody else. They had awkward teenage years. David even got braces. They've always been good-natured, though. They've always been sweet, despite their strangeness. Since autism is considered to be a spectrum, it's very obvious that John falls very far on one side of it. But that doesn't make him all that different. He really likes YouTube videos and is constantly plugged into technology, though when he really likes something, his reaction tends to look something like this. He also really likes popcorn and is constantly plugged into his iPod, iPad, or computer. Makes him happy. Another thing John really needs to do is pace, or do some kind of physical activity to get out all this nervous energy he has. Most nights he paces around the dining room table, or he'll rock in one of the rocking chairs with my parents sitting in the room with him. That's something else we've noticed. He loves spending time with the family. Another way John likes to get all of his energy out is to bounce. We bought him this trampoline for Christmas because my dad was too worried that his 260 pounds would suddenly bust a hole in the ground. And he loves it. I mentioned how much John loves his iPod earlier, but I didn't mention what music he likes. Here's Jason Derulo's The Other Side, something a lot of teenagers these days would know.
In the beginning, I never thought it would be all. We were chilling, smiling in the photo booth. We got closer, yeah. So you were eating up my spoon. You coming over, and we were talking all afternoon. Tonight we just get drunk, disturbed in peace. Find your hands all over me, and then you bite your lip. Whisper and say.
Other than his music, John's biggest love is definitely the beach, the ocean, and just being outside in general. Same with David, actually, though David's interests go a little bit farther. While David and John are relatively close on the autism spectrum, David's definitely a lot more neurotypical than John. He talks a lot, and he's developed a lot of interests. He's very artistic. He loves singing and drawing. He also has mood swings, like all teenagers do, and he expresses them in ways that are really comprehensible. One of his favorite things to do, in fact, is to tell me to leave him alone.
Hey! What's the big idea, Emily? Come on. Leave me alone. Oh, Emily. No, Emily, no! Please, Emily.
Please, can I talk to you?
No, leave me alone.
So the night.
Please, Emily. Please leave me alone. You are just annoying.
Despite these normalities, David's autism mostly manifests in the flapping of his hands and talking to himself. He makes up stories in his head that we can't understand, but they're definitely there for him. It's really cool. As I mentioned earlier, David's very artistic. He loves drawing, especially cartoons, and also has a knack for painting. Something else David loves doing and is really good at is singing. In fact, he's started singing lessons this year. Here's some of one. In general, David's always been a really personable individual. People love him. He's a total goofball, easy to get along with, incredibly funny. He's always had a great time at after-school programs. He's always been involved in the community. He's a total goofball. This is him dancing in the car. He even has a job at Round Table Pizza now, which is really exciting. And no matter how annoyed with me he gets, I know he still loves me. Good night, David.
Good night.
I love you.
I love you more. Thanks for noticing.
I know David loves John too, and John loves David, but the relationship's a little more complicated. They don't interact as much as they used to, and I know David feels more like a caretaker than a brother a lot of the time, like I do. They fight, too. Mostly John's instigating it when David's annoying him. That seems pretty typical of brothers, though. So I guess what I'm really trying to say is that my brothers are just people. With all of their oddnesses and eccentricities, which I guess you can attribute to their disorder, they're still just people. Two very different people, at that. With their likes and dislikes, things that irritate them, things they couldn't care less about. They're very distinct individuals. And it's important not to forget when talking about autism that we're talking about people.